Hi everybody, welcome back for another edition of From My Angle. I'm excited to be at the Grant Halliburton Foundation today with the president of the foundation, Anita Halliburton. We've got exciting news to share with you today in more depth about our partnership called centerED. But before we get into that, we're eager to share with you the story of this terrific foundation, the work they're doing for young adolescents here in the community, talk about our respective perspectives on what it's like to educate adolescents today and to deal with their mental wellness. And then we'll go into some detail on the centerED partnership. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Grant Halliburton Foundation and about Grant before we get started?
Sure. Well, not too many years ago, I was the parent of a struggling teen. And my son, Grant Halliburton, had suffered from just chronic depression throughout his teenage years, but ended up with bipolar disorder and taking his own life at the age of 19. As a family, we were so blindsided by that turn of events because we'd been doing all we knew to do at the time to take care of his mental health.
Right.
And we were just left instantly with this thought that if our family couldn't figure this out, doing everything we knew to do, there must be other families. There must be some gaps in the mental health system or in the way things work out there, and we were right. So we started an organization that's focused solely on youth mental health and suicide prevention, and we really focus on education because that's the beginning of everything.
Yep.
And erasing the stigma, suicide prevention, encouraging people through peer support groups, and but education is the cornerstone of what we do. We see kids who are overloaded, just the pressures of being a teenager, the normal things like experiencing heartbreak and disappointment and failure and loss and all those things for the first time.
Right.
That's really stressful for a young person.
Sure.
And then we see them pressured to achieve more, to do more, be more, and just that kind of starting to snowball, and they end up with jam-packed schedules and little time to just relax, reflect, reboot, and rejuvenate, which is so critical to mental and emotional health.
We're really trying hard to reimagine how we deliver content, how we utilize time, how we explore partnerships to enrich the experiences of our kids, so that, as I like to say, our 18-year-olds come to school as excited as our 8-year-olds do, right? There's that pivot point around middle school all of a sudden where school becomes a job and it's part of the transaction of getting older, and it loses the joy of coming to school. Like we're curious as to how to solve that problem, right? And when you, Kevin Hall, who's your chief operating officer and a Parish parent alum, came to us and said, we think there's potential for a partnership here, and spoke to the work that you were trying to do, slowing this pressure pot, boil that our kids and parents are in. That resonated with us because we're trying to do the same thing on the academic side. So
Thanks. We know that education and mental health are intertwined, and when you try to separate them, one or the other is going to suffer, the mental health or the educational success. So that's what we love about this, and what you were talking about is we treat education as a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Everybody fit into this mold, and let's just march forward like this, and it doesn't allow for the different emotional and mental makeup and capacities to deal with the same amount of stress, or even to be aiming for the same sort of achievement. So this partnership I think is going to do something really important, and that is to begin to treat mental and emotional health the same way we treat and regard physical health.
The primary driver for us is to bring to our kids learning that's engaging, that keeps their level of passion for school high, and takes care of their mental wellness, right? And we can get down to thinking about who are you authentically, right? What has God placed you here to do in this world? How are you going to change it and impact it for the better? What is it that you want to explore? These elements of this kind of creative piece. So we think we need your partnership to help round out the work we're doing on the academic side with the type of programming for our educators, for our parents, for our kids, that says, to your point, your mental wellness is as important as your mental capacity or your intellectual capacity, right? And as important as your physical vitality.
We're in the schools so much. We reached and trained over 31,000 students and teachers and parents last year, but most of those are once a year, 1 hour, and that is not enough to effect a culture change, not by a long shot. It's a start. starts the conversation, but this is going to be so much more effective, and it's going to permeate the lives and the community and the culture, I think.
So that would look like your team really partnering with our social emotional counselors in each division to think about in our lower school programming, in our homerooms, in our middle and upper school programming through our advisory program, and where this type of content can be brought and put in front of our students in the form of support groups, in the form of curriculum, and to really begin this process of focusing on wellness. Yeah, and I even like the notion of really support groups. I mean, look, I've got 3 boys, you've got your children. We walk this walk, right? It sounds easy to say you can get educated on this, but in reality, you've got to have conversation around it, because we've got high achieving parents of our 1,136 students. I'm a high achieving parent of my 3 boys, and modulating this conversation around achievement and wellness, this is not easy. Each of your kids is different, and we all want our kids to fulfill their potential, right? And so I understand the tension and anxiety hearing me talk about rebuilding the architecture of school, or to a certain degree de-emphasizing a fixation on achievement. I understand the anxiety that creates for a parent who's talking about perhaps governing their child's capacity to achieve. Like, this is not easy. It's much easier to sit down in a group of parents and really talk through what this looks and feels like. And I think through Centered, we plan to offer some sessions where parents can come in and maybe not get answers, but be able to walk the walk and talk the talk with some folks who are trying to figure out how they're working on it in their own homes. So we're going to get to work on this partnership in earnest next fall, but we have some events that are coming up this spring. Some things, in fact, that we've done in the past together. For example, your team is coming out to our Wellness Week. It's the week of February 3rd. We have essentially a formal kickoff of Centered in April 12th. Right. We're bringing Julie Lythcott-Hames, former Stanford Dean, present author of How to Raise an Adult, who has one of the most popular TED Talks out there right now that the audience can go and watch.
We're really excited about this whole launch. This whole spring launch is going to be great, and as we go down the road next year, we have plans for more trainings, more education, continuing conversations with all constituents in the programs.
Most definitely. So thanks for joining me today and talking through this with us, and of course you and your team for joining the Parish team and conceptualizing Centered and beginning to roll it out. We look forward to sharing more information with our community about this as it takes form. So thanks for being with us. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation.